views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail. Wow, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. It's so great to be connecting with all of you guys out there. Yeah. Yeehaw. That's the kind of day I'm having, Benny. Shout out to Mr. B. Hello, Mr. B. How you doing?
Doing awesome, Pat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those days. Just kind of feeling it, feeling the joy. That's what I'm feeling today. Thank goodness Eileen Campbell is in the house. We're going to be talking about joy. We're going to be talking about joy, joy, joy. Not to mention, that is also a movie here, of course, but that's not what we're talking about here today. But, you know, part of this is being on the journey. If you're somebody like me, and I'm not saying all of you guys listening to the show, I'm not saying like you're like me, but if you're anything a little bit like me, maybe, you understand what the opposite of joy is. Why? Because, that's kind of the place I hung out most of my life. Not living there right now, but it is a journey, and there's a reason why we say it's a journey. You know, what is it about our lives? And, you know, that when we stop as women and we step back and we think about, wait a minute, why am I not putting on the happy face of today? You know, what is it about my journey, my life, you know, that seems different? You know, why is it that I look around at some of the other people in my life and they're able to handle things? But women have many challenges to deal with in their lives. We really do. And, you know, some of these challenges, one of the greatest I think that I've had for me is the idea of self-care. You know, I don't know what each of your journeys has been like, but what happens when we take a look and step back and we ask ourselves, what happens when I listen to my heart? What happens when I live with gratitude? And what happens when I find my bliss? So today, I'm thrilled to be chatting with Eileen Campbell about the Woman's Book of Joy. Listen to your heart, live with gratitude, and find your bliss. And so what I love about this book, and I love about what Eileen has done is, you know, there are things that we can learn. Everything from how to nurture our intimate relationships to how to reassess and rebuild our lives. And I want to tell you, I've been at both of those places, but I did not have the tools that Eileen is coming to the forefront and saying that we can use, is looking at and helping us understand that we can come from a place that's very different than perhaps what we're comfortable in. You know, Eileen, since early adventures, she and I have this in common. I was talking about the hippie trail back in the 70s, you know, the whole bra burning thing down at Atlantic Cities and so forth. You know, what has our life been like? What have we learned? And so here she is today as this inspirational writer, well known for pioneering publishing in the fields of health, personal development, spirituality. You know, for a decade on the board, director HarperCollins in UK. But what is it about this message, bringing this to the forefront, that as we like to say here, positivity rules? You know, what is it about, you know, what we're doing here and launching transformationradio.fm, 10 channels completely dedicated to positivity, consciousness? What is it that's calling that forth? I will tell you this for me, and we're going to talk about it today. Crawling out of that deep, dark hole that I used to call my life was part of that journey. Today, I'm hoping that you're going to hear some things that will help you rise up and understand that joy is a birthright. Eileen, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks very much, Pat. It's lovely to be on the show.
It's so great to be talking with you. And, there are many, many facets of this, many things to chat with you about. And I think one of the first things that I would like to get to is the idea of the difference that you've discovered around how joy shows up for men versus how it shows up for women. Some people would say, joy is joy. But you really have discovered something different. I'd love to start there. Is there a difference?
Well, I think there is because of the way women experience life. Obviously, we are different. But in a sense, we're talking about the human condition. So some of what I say applies equally to males. But I think the difference today is that although women... in some ways, you can say, there's been huge strides. They have far greater freedom, and that's part of the problem. They have freedom to choose to be a wife, to have a career, to travel the world. They have so much freedom, at least in the Western world. I know that's not true everywhere, but we're talking about the West here.
Yeah.
So they have so much freedom, and actually, I think they want to make the most of all the opportunities. I think there are different challenges for men now. Certainly as human beings, we all have to deal with the same stuff. But women carry something different, which is, I think, there's this sense that they've got to maximize all these opportunities they've now got. So they try to do it all. And their nature is to be caring. And they're very good at caring for other people. They're very good at, holding the family together, bringing up the kids. But, nowadays people have a career as well.
Yeah.
They care for their elderly parents. I've got so many friends. I'm at that stage of life. It's the daughters who care more for the elderly parents than the chaps. Women by nature are more caring. And they take too much on. And obviously although there has been huge change in society since the 60s and 70s, women's situation has changed. And yet still, we're not really equal. Certainly in the UK, maybe less so in America, there's still not always equal salaries for the same jobs. There's still women are having to fight their way, really. And, you look around the world at people, in positions of power, and mostly it's still men in power. So I think there are different issues for women.
I think we're seeing that pretty clearly, even in the way that, people are viewing women that are in positions, of leadership. I remember kind of growing up in the era where, having a woman in even a supervisory position, by the very nature of that, came with a lot of the stigma that associated women in business and so forth and so on. One of the things that you talk about in the book is, and you say this, and boy, I'll tell you, what a great reminder. You say, deep within us exists a vast reservoir of pure joy that we have all on occasion probably experienced, but that we're generally disconnected from. So that it's like we're turned to the wrong station when trying to listen to a specific program on the radio. And by reading that and beginning the conversation and the way that you open the book and start us out in the book, what I'm asking you is, sometimes, most of the times, we're not able to believe that joy is really our birthright. But, what you've written in the book is to say, look, sometimes we have to get a reminder. What have you discovered along the way for yourself? How have you been able to remind yourself that joy is the birthright, and now you want to share that with others?
Well, I think if I'm honest, I have to remind myself constantly because although, I've written this book and I'm very proud of it and I've got, as you know, I've covered a lot of ground in it. Still, I still suffer, as it were, from some of the same issues that, women face, even down to appearing on your wonderful show. I think it's fantastic, by the way, that you have transformational radio in the States, and it's fabulous. But some nervousness, a little bit of fear, but these things are natural. And I think it's letting the feelings go. And, then, what we do is we tend to, a lot of this stems from childhood patterning. We grow up, between those vital years of, 1 to 6, we become something in order to get what we need. And we find ways of doing that. But obviously sometimes there are unmet needs. And so we kind of our behavior, we make it so that actually we are this persona in order to get what we want. But of course it doesn't always work, but we kind of get locked into that. And that's one of the areas I think that stops us from later on realizing that, there is a way to find this joy. And it is at this deep reservoir, and we can contact it. But I need to remind myself sometimes, because I can, something can throw you off balance. And so constant effort, it's a constant work. Life is our lives are a work in progress, if particularly once our eyes are opened and we can see that we are, we do have responsibility for the way our lives are. Yes, we kind of, our circumstances might be difficult, but we can always choose our attitude. But of course, it's difficult to choose our attitudes because of the conditioning. And so you have to kind of find time to really discover who you are. And it does take time. And then you have to keep coming back to it, because you still kind of forget. Something can throw you off.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, and we're going to talk about this throughout the show today. For those of you just tuning in, I am so thrilled to have Eileen Campbell joining me here today. We're talking about, her latest book here, The Woman's Book of Joy. Listen to your heart, live with gratitude, and find your bliss. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how the book starts. Out of all of the things that Eileen could have picked to start this book, what do you think? What do you think she decided on choosing? And why is it so relevant and important, this choice to start this book out in this way? Why is it so relevant and important in the world we live in today, our contemporary society? Let's take a short break, everybody. When we come back, more with my very special guest, more about joy. We'll be right back.
Exactly how I feel. The heart knows what is true and what is real. Who that little girl is, where's she coming from? Who's the one?
Hi, I'm Tim Darter.
And I'm Steve Kramer.
Join us on Spirit Fire Radio. Discover how to add the mechanics of meditation to your day.
And watch yourself connect in a whole new way. Find the amazing moments in life's routines that often pass us by. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio.
Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. for your weekly guide to practical mindfulness. And to learn more, visit www.spiritfireradio.com.
Song of the Heart, Walking the Path of Light, from author and healer Francine Vale, is available now. Through Francine's life story, we learn how imperative it is to love one another. Once this simple truth is learned, peace on earth will prevail. Song of the Heart is a life lived and a story told for this purpose. To learn more about Francine and her amazing gifts, or to order your copy of the book today, visit angelsandlightbeings.com.
Have you ever tried to make lifestyle changes but had difficulty following through? Imagine what it would be like to get up each morning with energy, clarity, and motivation to tackle the day. If you want to get past limiting barriers that are preventing you from living your best life, join holistic health and wellness coach T. Carrie Mitchell each month on the Dr. Pat Show. Or visit lifestyle120.com today and start to receive the personal attention you deserve.
Holistic Medical Center is where you find it all. A healthy space with doctors who care, see, and listen to the whole you. Hi, this is Dr. Darvish. If you have not found an answer to your chronic symptoms, you will find answers here at Holistic Medical Center. Our doctors find the root cause of your symptoms and guide your body towards healing naturally. We transform lives from within. Visit drdarvish.com or call 425-451-0404.
A word of caution. If you prefer the status quo and you are not interested in improving every aspect of your life, this book will trigger the shift out of you. The Truth is Funny, Shift Happens is available now. Author Colette Steffen brings the powerful knowledge and life-changing energy and empowerment from the radio airwaves to the pages of her new book. To get your copy in paperback or ebook, visit thetruthisfunny.com today.
Sky Siegel co-hosts one of today's most popular psychic shows, Angels and Answers, with Artie Hoffman, as she communicates healing messages from the spirit world. These messages can be astounding, enlightening, and life-changing. Born with the God-given talent of inner guidance and the amazing ability to heal, Sky has healed thousands of people. Schedule a reading with Sky now. Call 908-500-1474 and visit skyofangels.com.
All at once turned my life around, and with one kiss she set me free. She's given me joy, joy, joy.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Benny, for that. Hey, thank you all for tuning us in, turning us on. I'm so thrilled to be talking here with Eileen Campbell. For those of you out there, the book that I keep referring to today is The Woman's Book of Joy. And one of the things I love about the format for the Dr. Pat Show on Transformation Talk Radio is real simple. You know, all of the experts have said, you know, you really don't need to spend, 40 minutes in a show talking about a topic. And I want to say that that's not what all of you guys have said. You have clearly said to us that you want to hear stories about how people are creating epic lives, not mediocre lives, not lives where we're settling, but epic lives. And, when it comes to joy, this is why we want to talk with Eileen Campbell. Eileen, thank you so much for the book, and thank you so much for the conversation. Now, here's the thing. You could have picked anything, any place to start this book, but you picked something really interesting. And I got a dose of this morning at a really early meeting. You picked finding courage. I am so wanting to know, out of all the things you could have selected to kick this book off, to open it up, why courage?
I think because, as women, we do sometimes lack courage. We feel a little diffident. It comes back to self-esteem, which is different from self-confidence, because many women today appear to be self-confident. They're successful. They're getting on with their lives, and they're doing a whole host of things, and you can read about it on social media, etc., etc. They're having great lives, it appears, but the self-esteem is this not needing anything from outside to tell you how marvelous you are. And we are. Every one of us is unique. We all have talents. We all have abilities. And we are not as courageous as we might be in taking risks. We kind of perhaps, I'm not saying people don't take risks, but we are a little fearful because we want to get it right. We're as women particularly, we have this perfection scenario. We want to look good. We want to be good. We want to do the best we possibly can. We don't always, we give ourselves a hard time, really, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that, it's the self-esteem. If we can somehow improve our self-esteem, and there's only really one way to do that, I think, apart from maybe working with a therapist or whatever, but you're still going to have to do the same sort of exploration. You're going to have the courage to explore yourself, who you really are, what you really feel about things. Are you really living the life you you want to live? Are you compromising? Now, I'm not saying compromise isn't something that one doesn't need to, one needs to compromise on occasions, but are you living your dream, or are you fulfilling a dream that you thought you had, but that actually the seed might have been planted by a parent or a peer or a sibling, and you're living out somebody else's dream, and you think on the surface everything seems okay, and yet actually underneath, inside, you're looking for some kind of affirmation from outside that would boost your self-esteem. And I think why I started with Finding Courage is we have to recognize the fears that we have, and we have to take risks. We have to dare to be ourselves, who we truly are.
Yeah. One of the things I love about this, and here's why I love the way you started this book out, because following this, this part of the book is looking at awakening. And one of the things that helps all of us that are reading this is you really tackle right out of the gate how we can look at things like seeing crisis as an opportunity for growth. Things like, finding a path back to life after tragedy, facing emotional pain, daring to be ourselves. See, and if we're not having this conversation up front, then by the time we get to the awakening part of things, we are and have already negotiated a limited awakening. Do you see what I mean, Eileen?
Yes, I do. And
yeah.
It's true. I see where you're coming from now in terms of, I talk about, embracing change in this first chapter. And, the fact is that, we have to deal with stuff. And the thing is, that's what happens when why you need courage, because actually initially it's not always easy, and it is often a crisis. Breakdown of a marriage, a redundancy, an illness, some dreadful incapacitating illness. But there are marvelous stories of people who, even with, say, some terrible illness that paralyzes them or whatever, that they can do extraordinary things if they put their minds to it. Now, it's not easy. It's a struggle, and they probably need support from loving parents or partners or whatever it is. But it's amazing, and there are so many individuals and examples, and I give some in the book, obviously, of people who have done extraordinary things. They've overcome terrible physical ailments, terrible tragedies, and I think that's why I absolutely know, and I think this is true both on the personal level, and actually, we might, whether there's time later on, we might talk about it, but even on the sort of planetary level, crisis, which is what I see where we're at now, is an opportunity to, for a breakthrough.
Yeah. And, sometimes, and you talk about this, and the stories in here are beautiful. I remember, one story I was reading, and you talk about how sometimes we can have a personal crisis, but the way we approach it, how we approach it, the courage to approach it, guided by our intuition, we don't realize until we've personally changed that this crisis, albeit at an individual level, the courage to do something about it may have a positive influence on other people and perhaps even the world. And I think that's important to talk about, because sometimes we get so stuck in our own stuckness and our own lack of joy and hopelessness, we forget how we get to show up in the world as joy and how that affects other people. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because, it's hard sometimes when we're in the stuckness to think, my stuckness, that is affecting other people, but also my joy can affect people too. What's the relationship there? It's got to be a balance.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is, it's this whole thing of, the energy and the effect we have. We are much more connected than we think we are. Everything we do has a kind of ripple effect, and the energy flows through us. So when we get stuck, the energy doesn't really flow well, and, we're lethargic and kind of like there's a heaviness and whatever. When we're joyful, we're reaching out, and the effect that just walking down the street, smiling and saying hello to people, you so often I pass somebody, with their head down, and they look as if they're bent, they're carrying, the burdens of the world. Now I know the news is always depressing, but that's what the news is about, isn't it? We don't often want to hear good news, which is why your wonderful program is fantastic. That you have something, positive to uplift people, because we all need to be uplifted. And I think we do underestimate the effect we can have on other people, both for good and ill, in terms of our mood, because we are transmitters of life and energy. And so, if we're negative, low, depressed, obviously that will have an effect on others. So we don't want to go there. We want to uplift ourselves as much as possible, which is really why I did the book, because, it's taken me a lifetime to get here, through many crises and whatever. But, and I'm certainly not proclaiming to be anything special, because as I continue to struggle. But I do know, because I have had those moments and I know what to do. I feel I do know what to do. And I do know that you have to have the courage to really face your fears, to, see and understand who you are. And of course, to do that, you have to take time out of your very busy life to be quiet and be still. And meditation is wonderful, but it may not be for everybody. But I'm a yogi. I think meditation is amazing. But there are, secular ways that you can also touch that joy and lose your worries, by immersing yourself in something, playing the piano, baking a loaf of bread. It can be something quite simple.
Absolutely.
Something that absorbs your energy and attention. And, always, we all know this. I mean, in fact, there's nothing new under the sun, really. It's just different. We need reminders all the time, don't we, of how to connect with the life force, the center, where joy comes from and bubbles over, and it's there, and we can all reach it. It doesn't matter how difficult things are. You've got to choose. We have the responsibility to choose our attitude as to how we look at life.
Yeah, I want to ask you a couple things. We are getting ready to launch a crowdfunding campaign, and our crowdfunding campaign has changed in the way we're talking about and calling it. And, right now, one of the things we had to do is really go back to our roots and authenticity about who we are and what the crowdfunding initiative is about. And it's about, launching a campaign that will ensure the continuation of positive talk radio for people that may not have thousands of dollars to buy airtime. And so our campaign now is under the guise of Positivity Rules. And it had a different energy to it, but we changed it. And one of the things I was really struck by in your book is the chapter you write on cultivating optimism. I was just really, really drawn to this and how important it is. I don't have my head in the sand, Eileen, about the world. I don't do that. It's not that I'm not aware of it. But you said something interesting about being at choice. And so in the book, when you talk about cultivating optimism, the question then becomes, to what end? What is the impact of optimism? Now, I know that, I have many nicknames, Pollyanna, Patty, whatever they are, right? But cultivating optimism, the way you're talking about it, it's really a game changer. And I would love for you to share, what this really means. We're going to take a short break when we come back. The question is, do each and every one of us really know what it means to cultivate optimism? And do we have the courage and awareness to do that for ourselves? Eileen Campbell, we're going to take a short break, everybody. When we come back, we're going to talk about what this means. And if we do that, can we be assured that our dreams will be refueled? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
That girl, she brings me joy. She's giving me joy, joy, joy. That girl, she brings me joy.
Tune
into sheer alchemy with Leslie Fontaine on TransformationTalkRadio.com and get ready to stir up your passions, identify your blocks, and shift into an entirely new existence. Leslie Fontaine is a transformation catalyst and clairvoyant who uses her intuitive and energetic gifts to catapult listeners into living the life they were born to live. Whether it's shifting from scarcity to abundance, from emotional pain into joy, or from illness into health, Leslie will help you step into the true essence and power of all that you are with the help of the Ascended Masters and Archangels. You will not be the same. Visit TransformationTalkRadio.com for show dates and times and LeslieFontaine.com to say yes to explosive abundance.
Are you ready for a radical shift in your way of being? Are you seeking a more deeply connected and fulfilling life? Awakened Living Radio is a show dedicated to helping you embrace a life filled with profound peace, connection, and happiness. TJ Woodward is passionate about helping you find your clarity, balance, and purpose. Join co-host TJ Woodward and Dr. Pat Basili on the first Monday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific Time for Awakened Living Radio on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Join the Pacific Northwest EFT Tappers at the 6th Annual Tappers Gathering March 19th at Bastyr University in Seattle. You will learn EFT applications, forge a strong community, and share healing stories. The event raises money and awareness for EFT tapping scientific research. Net proceeds go to our 501c3 nonprofit to further prove the efficacy of EFT. Bring your cards and information for a fun and inspiring day of networking. Visit nwtappersgathering.com or call 360-661-6877.
Are you ready to stop stress, anxiety, and low self-esteem from running your life? Join award-winning author Dr. Friedemann Schaub for Empowerment Radio and learn breakthrough solutions to switch out of survival mode and approach every day with great ease, joy, and purpose. Tune in the first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific to Empowerment Radio with host Dr. Friedemann Schaub on Transformation Talk Radio. Visit thefearandanxietysolution.com to learn more.
Get into it for 2016. Do you want more prosperity, clarity, energy, and balance in your life? Join Lynn Brown now through March for one of her amazing workshops, each focusing on a key part of living your best life. For more information and to register for one of these amazing workshops, visit lynnbrownevent.com. That's lynnbrownevent.com. And get into it this 2016 with Lynn Brown. Hey everyone, it's great to have you back here. I am so thrilled to have Eileen Campbell joining me here today, Finding Joy. You know, this is a really important conversation. You know, all of you know that our theme this year is accelerated expansiveness. And, you know, that is a theme that came to us last year, and we're noticing that it's not just us that has selected that theme. You know, many people are looking at the world and saying, wait a minute, I want to expand in joy, abundance. I want to expand my belief in a higher power. I want to expand, you know, here and there. But the point is, when it boils down to it, we're saying this, that what Eileen is saying. We actually want to accelerate our expansiveness of joy. That is really what we're trying to say here in a lot of different ways. Eileen, before we jump to, you know, what it means to cultivate optimism in the book, what is the best way for folks to find out about you? How can they get a copy of your book?
Well, the book's available from Canary Press, Red Wheel Visor. It will be in all good bookstores and online as well, Amazon, etc. And if they want to contact me, my website is www.eileencampbellbooks.com.
Awesome. Okay. A lot of things I could have picked out of the book. There's so much in here, and the way that you present this material is brilliant. I mean, this is literally a how-to book for people that are thinking, wait a minute, Joy, she's gonna tell me about, you know, like how to change my attitude, how to do this. No. But you actually give us an action plan. I was really pleasantly surprised to get to cultivating optimism and find out that what you're saying is, wait a minute, these are things you could do. Tell us about your approach to optimism. And I would love for you to share some of the stories in here.
Well, I think it's interesting, talking to an American audience about optimism, because, you've got so much positive thinking, so many books on positive thinking in the US. America was built on positive thinking. But actually, I'm someone who's struggled a little bit with not always being an optimist. Being a bit of a worrier. But of course, worry is an interesting thing, because actually worry is all about trying to control everything.
Yep.
But in the end, obviously some people are born with a more sunny disposition than others. But we know that optimism, if we are optimistic, things seem to change. And we certainly know that we can build on our capacity to sort of experience positive emotions. That when we do that, we are actually able to alter our brains, and we can experience sort of overall greater physical well-being and mental well-being. And, so there's every reason personally to kind of work at it. And, I'm very mindful about it. A lot of it comes back to how we view the world. And that there's an English poet, Frederick Langbridge, a very famous couplet from one of his poems. Two men look out through the same bars. One sees the mud and one the stars. And, obviously, optimists are aware things can go wrong, but, and they also can use their imagination. I think that's one of the things that's key, to actually picture good things happening in the future. So, they have a vision of where they want to go, and they're positive about it, and they kind of dream around it. They use their intuition. The problem with pessimism is that it's a sort of diminishing return circle, if you like, in that you can't really move forward if you're kind of thinking of all the problems that might be going wrong. So all the things that are happening that could go wrong. And so what I suggest, and there's nothing new here, I mean, I'm just pulling it together in this chapter in the book, is we have to look at where these negative and limiting beliefs that we have, where do they come from? What can we do about this? And actually what we can do is to become more self-aware. And we only do that when we pay attention and really examine it. And therefore, it's why I'm constantly arguing throughout the book about the need to take space and time to really see what's going on, to actually look at, why we might behave in a certain way, why we instantly think, of something negative, happening instead of something positive, and in fact train ourselves to actually, my partner often says to me, 3 positives before a negative, and he's quite right. That was, I think, taught in business school, whatever. But because I have a sort of slight, tendency to, kind of see problems. Obviously it's a good thing to do, and I think some of that obviously will stem from my own conditioning. As a child, no, you can't do that. I give the story in the book about my art teacher at school saying to me, "You clearly have no talent," and it's true. I wasn't doing terribly well, but it meant I never picked up a paintbrush again till I was in my 50s. And actually, when I did, and I had some tuition. It's now part of my life. I do actually draw, and I have drawing classes, and I paint. And that would have seemed impossible. So I think again, we're coming back to taking courage. Having courage. That first chapter in the book that we've talked about in the first part of the program. Again, we've got to be courageous. To change our negative and limiting beliefs that we've just kind of grown up with from our parents, our teachers, our siblings and peers. They told us this wasn't possible, but we can change our beliefs and attitudes by thinking differently. We can rewire our brains.
Yeah. I love one of the things that you talk about here, which is so important. And I want to kind of get to it, and one of the things that I was really struck by in looking at this and looking at the book was this idea about, women that experience great tragedy or have a disability or are living in poverty. But you also talk about this sense of hopelessness. And, I used to think, okay, maybe I'm feeling hopeless today because I'm sitting here by myself. But there's this level of hopelessness, I think, that women experience that's hard to describe. Certainly, I'm not saying that doesn't happen for men, but I'm saying that there's something about it for women that generally can become showstoppers. And I would love for you to address this. This idea of feeling hopeless, it really does stop us from so many things, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And again, I think it comes back to the struggle that we have with as women in trying to be this perfect person. And, the whole self-esteem issue. We feel we're not good enough. We can't do that. We're not able to do that. That's when we feel hopeless. And I think it's, really a question of taking a little step at a time. There was, I tell the story in the book about an acquaintance of mine who was married to is married still to a doctor, 2 children, lovely home, and made the decision that, would bring up the children and not resume her career. But then, sort of 3 years into this, she was beginning to feel low. And she kind of, was almost on the verge of depression and thought, well, I've got to do something about this. And I think, through chatting with girlfriends and all the rest of it who were supportive and whatever, she kind of saw that, yes, she could maybe make a change. So she took up tapestry and went to work in a craft shop 1 day a week. And this was nothing, she'd never had any sort of interest in anything like this before, but she was doing something practical. And then as a result of that, she kind of moved on and became very interested in the arts and crafts movement and then in art history. And her life is now so much richer. So, she took the time to try and work it out. And I think it's taking these little steps at a time. One thing leads to another. And in fact, that we've all had that experience of being on a roll. You start in a small way and then it snowballs. Yeah. And then, of course, that feeds you. And again, we come back to this whole energy thing. And once things start to get moving and whatever. And when for you, this is, as a woman, this is something that is nurturing you. It's feeding you. Then of course, you begin to feel the joy, sort of is re-entering your life and you're energized. And, I think, you can move, you can make that transition from feeling pretty hopeless and, I'm not good enough to do this or that, I could never do that. And then just actually be brave, which is why I started the book with courage, be brave, just see what is it you really like doing. Just get to know yourself. And that I think is critical. What do you really like that you've maybe never had the chance to do before? What is there something that you could pursue there that then will, give you more satisfaction and nurture the you that's really you, because, people have a whole host of responsibilities these days and stuff they're doing, and they don't have that much time. But, start in small ways.
Well, and, I want to talk with you about the idea of holding on to our dreams, believing in our dreams. And, there's so many things that I love that you're talking about here that is really, that ties things together. But I was really looking at, what does it mean to believe in our dreams? And at the same time, as you so beautifully say in the book, trust life's process. Because what does that actually mean? Okay, so let me try this on you, Eileen, if I could, right? So you believe in your dream and you create things. And, what you're creating is Well, maybe a network with 10 channels on positivity and consciousness. But then something may show up in life, right? Who knows what it is? In our case, programmers that disappeared over a year ago, a whole range of things. Listeners saying, wow, we want you to get this done sooner. And you're sitting there, and there's like this crossroads that you might get to. Now, that's one example. There are many. You know, there is a woman sitting in front of a doctor after she's just found out that her daughter or son may be ill. And she has to rise up and have the courage to ask the hard questions, to challenge authority. These are the things you're talking about. And I wanted to ask you, holding on to a dream and trusting in the process seems to me that there should be two dots that get connected with a straight line. But I don't know about your life. I wish mine got connected like that. How do we hold on to our dreams, believe in our dreams, and what have you learned about doing that by trusting in the process?
Well, I think that it's very difficult when things don't go according to plan. And let's face it, life is unpredictable. It never goes according to plan. And things change. And, you know, we don't like change. We kind of resist it. I think the interesting thing is that very often when something goes horribly wrong, you kind of, you know, you begin to think, oh, you know, what am I supposed to do? How do I deal with this? And gradually, you know, sort of, you step back and recognize how you're feeling about it, and then wonder, maybe, what am I supposed to be learning from this? Because when I talk about trusting life's process, I think you could ask many people about life events that have been tragic or sad or devastating at the time. But actually, as time then moved on, they realized that they would never have done the things that they had done, and they wouldn't have been the person they had they not been through that experience. Because I really maintain that whatever happens to us does happen for our growth. We learn. We're not very good at learning when everything's going terribly well. It's the crises, the challenges, you know, the disasters, the things that cause the emotional upsets, and, you know, we feel devastated. That it's through those things that we learn, because they force us to sort of examine what's actually been going on. And it's surprising that actually even something as tragic as, you know, divorce or, you know, losing your partner or whatever it is, that actually down the road, and I cite a couple of examples in the book. In one case, a woman who, after 35 years, her husband left her, and it was absolutely disastrous. But it was for her growth. It was absolutely phenomenal. She was a different person when she got through the loss and the grieving and all the rest of it. And she realized she had not really been fully living. And then another example of somebody who has rebuilt her life, having lost her husband tragically in a car accident. And she seemed to have the perfect life. But she has sort of reinvented herself and, you know, actually is wiser. And I was talking to her mother recently, and she was saying that she thought she'd never get over the loss of her mother-in-law, the loss of the son, my friend's husband. And but she said, you know, actually, she said, I'm a great believer that in the end, the choice of happiness, or the being positive, you have to move on. You're the only person that can make yourself happy. You're the only person that can really contact that joy deep down. And what she did was she took to baking bread, and she'd be kneading that dough and banging away, and all the anger would come out. And you know, she was making bread, and then she was making cakes, and all this came out. And then she realized that there were, you know, although she'd lost her son, life was very different. He'd actually, you know, moved them to somewhere to be more comfortable for their old age. And she had her memories, etc., etc. And, you know, this acceptance, you know, we have to accept that, you know, there will be losses, there will be disasters. Things just won't go according to plan. It's very frustrating, I'm sure, for you, you know, with, where you go with your very successful channels and all the rest of it. You get a hiccup, and yes, it's a challenge. But I do think that life unfolds, and we are challenged constantly, and that actually we learn so much from that.
I agree. I think one of the things that you do also talk about in the book, for those of you just tuning in, Eileen Campbell joining me here today, it's called The Woman's Book of Joy. One of the things that I do want to say, and I don't remember exactly where you talk about this, is that when I look back, and I've learned from this, is when I look back on a scenario like our programmers literally did disappear 18 months ago. I mean, they were there and then they were gone. That what happened in the days that were to come was a result of the people that are part of this team really being in a place of believing and optimism. Because what happened was, Jessica being able to find a programmer or a programmer showing up who looked at what we were doing, Eileen, and said, yeah, they disappeared because they could not do what you wanted them to do in the way that you want to do it. We have to start from scratch. And that was one of the greatest blessings we had, because as a result of that, we're sharing this on our crowdfunding page. As a result of that, what is being created by a team of incredibly creative people is a platform that didn't exist in the way that people can connect to positive messaging. And, part of that in the book, you talk about it as letting go. Letting go of a way that you think or thought something was going to happen. How important is letting go, not just with something that big, but I'm telling you, I've been at the checkout store in a grocery store, and I've had to let go of something standing in the grocery line. So this is something that we get to apply 24/7, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
And it's letting go of that, we're just this bundle of kind of desires and wants and needs and all the rest of it. And, and irritations, why did they behave like that, but I think and there's a place for anger, there's a place for, being, sulking for a second, but then just let it go. It's a feeling, right. Because actually, why, wreck things, don't, for heaven's sake, hang on to these things, and then what we tend to do is, we just keep playing this, loop. We had a crossword with someone, and then it's, playing away in our, in our brain, and it's mad, but we do it, and it's the mind. The mind is just this monkey, and we have all these thoughts through the day, and if something goes wrong, we've got to let it go, as otherwise, and that may require action. If we behave badly, we might need to apologize or whatever it is, but we just let it go, because we get bogged down by this stuff, and then it's just festering in our minds, and we do not find joy when we are worrying over something that happened.
I know.
We're reliving it, and it's crazy. And actually, it physiologically, it has a negative effect on us. We want to, really, if we can let go, we free ourselves up to use our energy in a more positive way, being creative, living a life that's meaningful, and doing things we can be passionate about, and hopefully making a difference in the world.
Oh my gosh. I have to tell you, I love what you've been able to put on paper here, because this is not just a book that conceptualizes for us, Eileen, about, joy. Yeah, Women's Book of Joy, conceptually. What you're giving us are individual tools that we can look at, stories that relate to them. And, I love that each section, each thing you talk about either has a poem, has an affirmation, has something in it that we can take away. So I want to thank you so much for all that you've done. And again, please let folks know about your website. And then I have one last question for you about your personal message. What's your personal message? What would you like to leave us with? And again, thank you for today.
Thank you. And my personal message is that, we are all lovable, beautiful, unique, talented people, and we have to remember that.
I love it. And again, your website and the best way for us to get a hold of you directly
is www.eileencampbellbooks.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Thank you for all that you do, Eileen.
Thank you, Pat, for all you do too.
Wow, we're going to take a short break, everyone. I want to just say to you that if you've missed any part of this show today, please be sure to know that it's going to play later on today again, as we always do with all of our shows, on transformationtalkradio.com. One of you just sent me a little text message and asked me about the network. Yes, you can take a sneak peek if you'd like to by going to transformationradio.fm. Take a look at the channels that we're talking about. And yes, if you want to find out more about the crowdfunding initiative that we're getting ready to launch, you can go to positivityrulesmovement.com or takebacktalkradio.com. We're going to take a short break, everyone. We've got another hour planned for you. Facebook, The Dr. Pat Show, Twitter, The Dr. Pat Show, and simply thedrpatshow.com. Okay, hang in there. We're going to be right back.
Preceding audio was via a Skype call.